Today's project is trying to fix a 10-pound sledgehammer. Last weekend we were splitting some wood with sledgehammer and wedges, and one of the things you learn along the way is trying to make sure you can hit the head on the wedge every time, and if you don't, you end up eventually making it through the handle. So this is a fiberglass handle on a 10-pound sledgehammer, and I haven't fixed too many handles in my life, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fix this one, or but this one may be a little more difficult because it is fiberglass. I was more used to the wooden handles they used to have years ago, but we'll take a shot at doing this. I'm hoping, and I can't really tell, but we're going to have to drill that core out and see how the factory ended up attaching that in there. I don't know if it's just glued or they actually put some sort of a wedge in it like they would on the wooden style handles. So we'll go ahead and get started. My assistant here is going to go ahead and drill this out. Try and drill at the center core, and we're not going to go much farther until we get that done, because if we can't get this out, then we're going to be in trouble. So let's make sure we got our proper safety gear, safety glasses for all our jobs, because we like to keep our eyes and let's start out with one of these drills. But I can already see we're going to have problems because this side doesn't appear to be as big as this side, so we'll just drill into it and see what we get. Maybe we'll start with a little smaller drill just to kind of probe in there a little bit. There we go. Go ahead and start drilling that out.
Don't you want oil it maybe?
No, I don't need any oil for that. This should
right
be just...
here?
I'd stay off to the side because there might be a metal tab in there. There, I want to drill the polymer out of there, or the plastic. That's what we want to do. So if you start seeing metal shavings, then we want to go to a new spot. Yeah, just go until you see metal shavings, and if not, maybe we'll get all the way through it. So we got to basically get down to good handle here. Which probably, I don't know if we'll be able to reuse this handle or not. Because we'll have to cut back this yellow plastic and then get down to a good core and stick it through there. Which means the handle's going to be a lot shorter by the time we're done. It's either that or go get a new wooden handle, which is probably about the same price as a new sledgehammer. I don't really know a good way of cutting this. So that stuff's kind of tough. We'll probably have to do is take and saw this around and just slide it right off, if that's possible. So in some ways, it's a lot easier not to ruin the handle, right? So you don't have to do this. And you don't have to buy another sledgehammer either. But that's how you learn. I've done it myself. You're not going to learn without making mistakes. Be careful not to get into the fiberglass as much because might not be too good for the saw teeth, and then weaken that inner core too when you get into it. So I think we're in there now. It's just a matter of separating that and getting it to slide out, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to do easily or not. And I still don't know how I'm going to attach it. They use like an epoxy in here, which that's probably not a bad idea, and it's easy. Here, you want to tap this off the rest of the way?
Me?
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe it's not gonna go now.
Well, what about using like a file instead?
Yeah. Or this will go, I think. Let's try it. Oh boy. Seems like it goes a little ways, and then that's probably because
it's not square, probably.
Well,
because when you're bending it, it's going in towards the core, like at an angle kind of.
Well, and the other thing is this down here might be wider than this neck, so as this neck moves down, it's getting tighter. But you know how we fix that is we just split it with a saw if we can. Move this out here more. Gotta be careful not to hit that core again because we're trying to reuse that. And then I gotta cut that off too, so it doesn't have that fray on it.
was thinking, like, once you cut this off, you can, like, get, like, a long sheet of metal and wrap it around this and, like, weld it together and then stick it maybe in the hole and then weld it to this.
Well, yeah, but you gotta remember
then,
when you start welding, all that heat that gets, it's 5,000 degrees, this will all melt off there. So I was gonna go ahead and put a sleeve on here and just weld a sleeve about this tall and then put the handle in. So we'll see if we can improve the design here a little bit for what we're using it for splitting with wedges along the way. And I found some 2x2 tubing. Seems like it'll fit pretty good, so we'll maybe cut about 3 inches of this off and weld it onto here to give us a little bit of impact resistance and a little bit of extra support in case we do miss the head of the wedge and happen to hit where the handle goes into the head here. So we'll weld that around there. One thing that does concern me a little bit is when you start welding on these hammerheads, you change the potentially change the brittleness of the head. So we gotta be careful with that we don't make this brittle and then we get chunks flying off if we end up impacting something. I don't suspect that's going to happen because most of the heat's going to be in this area. It's not going to really get out to the head, and I'm just going to be welding it with 70-18 rod, which is not really that brittle in my opinion. So I think we'll be okay there. So we'll put that on, and then the next step is to epoxy the head or epoxy the handle back into the head, and then hopefully it'll have a good connection and we should be pretty close to being done. So we got the protective sleeve welded on. It turned out okay, and now it's just a matter of what are we going to use to attach this head. I have a little bit of epoxy left. It's definitely not going to go as far as I'd like it to, so I think I'm just going to mix this up and dump it in there. It ends up where it ends up, and I think I'm going to put the remainder with silicone in there, because if I buy another tube of this, I wouldn't doubt that that's going to cost between $10 and $20, which is half the price of the new sledgehammer, which goes back to, do we want to take the time to fix this or just pitch it and buy a new one? So that's the plan for now. We'll go ahead and mix up some epoxy, dump it in there, and see if we can get it to work. And this is not going to work because this has been used once and it's hard and will not do what we want it to do. Yep, so that plan is out the window. That's about all we can get out of here. Cold temperatures probably aren't helping us either. Yeah, we're going to have a hard time putting this in there. Wish we had more of this because I think it would work great.
Is that
Kinda
like
wanna-
glue or something?
Yeah, it's epoxy glue. I think it's the same stuff that was in there. To have 5 minutes to work with this. I'm not so sure we're going to get 5 minutes. Yep, I need a lot more of this. Put this down there and then we'll pack the rest of it with silicone. Either that or we'll go buy some more epoxy. I guess we could run to the hardware store and see what they want for epoxy. Like I said, it's probably more than the price. I bet you the epoxy is 15 bucks. Or 12 to 15 bucks for enough epoxy to fill this up. Which a new sledgehammer is 40. So then all the time to do this and welding and all this other mess, and then after that you don't even know what you got when you're done, if it's even going to stay together. Might be worse than what it was. Handle might go flying off, hit somebody. Yep, we'll have to run to the store and get some. Oh, that's still a little toasty yet. And the next thing is to make sure it's square on there, otherwise when it dries it'll be funky.
Why don't you just cut that part off now?
I'll cut it after it's.
Well, I know, but like, you know what I'm saying?
I will once we
then
fill
you
that
can,
up.
like, cover the glue over the...
Yeah, we'll just cut it off, and that's minor, that problem. I don't want to start cutting it now because if it frays in there, the glue will help hold that together, so it won't fray apart. But that should take a pretty good beating against the wedge. I mean, unless you're way off down here.
I don't think so.
Plus, with that handle being as short as it is, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
Boy, I don't think you'd be off that far. Of course, now it's not as effective as it would be with that short handle.
Well, it's better than buying a new one.
Yeah, well, that's what we hope. All right, let's run to the hardware store and see if we can get some more epoxy. Okay, we got a little more epoxy. Set us back about $8. So you can take $8 off the price of a new sledgehammer, which is about 40, shipped to your door. So hopefully we'll get the most of this put in here. And the rest of it we'll end up filling with silicone. Keep in mind I haven't done this before, so it's probably not the best way. But it's the best way I know right now. It'd be nice to get it to go all the way down, but I don't know how to really pack it in there. Maybe we can use our welding rod to kind of get it down there farther. I think we got everything together here. The last thing we need to do is just cut the handle off. We are reducing the length of the handle quite a bit here, so that's going to be kind of a disadvantage for people that are used to using a longer handle, and also lose some of that extra energy you get from having the extra handle. But have a little more control over it, and we also still have our longer handled 8-pounder. Over here, our replacement, and I'd like to be able to do something with this one too, to add a little collar onto here, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I don't think I can use the same square tubing because this opens up quite a bit and this won't fit over top of there. So I'd either have to somehow bend that into more of an oval to get it over there, or find a piece of pipe. So we might do something a little bit easier for now, just put a piece of rubber around there just to help guard against that as we use this other one. So a lot of people may not know that fiberglass is a lot like asbestos, so you really want to minimize breathing that in. So keep that in mind where appropriate. Respiratory protection. And now's a good time to take advantage of the mask that we're using. And I'm just going to use a cutoff wheel, which actually is a fiberglass reinforced cutoff wheel as well. And again, those particles, if you breathe them in, they're a lot like asbestos, that they can get lodged in your lungs, and they don't break down. Fiberglass doesn't break down over the years. So just keep that in mind while you're doing jobs with fiberglass, and that goes for installing insulation as well. The pink insulation that you may be familiar with. The other thing I noticed that's similar to that is gasketing for wood stoves. If you ever handle the gasket rope and look in the sunlight, you can see all kinds of particles floating around, and if you breathe those in, they can stay in your lungs. So just wanted to pass that along as a FYI if you didn't know that already. So let's go ahead and cut this off, and then we'll see what kind of success we may have. We'll take it out back and see if we can split a log with it. Oh, that stuff stinks. There you have it. Hopefully that's enough epoxy to hold it in there. I don't know how much I was able to get down in below, but go take it out, and yeah, it's cracked already.
The hammer's fine.
Well, we'll see.
You said the hammer's cracked.
No, the wood is cracked.
Oh.
So that, yeah, good.
Alright, look at how close I have to be.
Gives you better control.
Oops. And see, even that wasn't close enough because it went flying.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. Good. Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go get gloves.
Okay.
Not the hammer, but the hammer still feels the same.
As far as what?
Like weight.
Well, yeah, it hasn't really changed much. You only lost a couple inches of the fiberglass handle, which is pretty light. So let's talk about the comparison of these two. 10-pound sledgehammer versus 8 with a longer handle. So what will the longer handle do? Give you more velocity. And so this is something I learned off the Fisker's axe literature, is that their philosophy is to go with a lighter head. In this case, this isn't Fisker's, of course, but a lighter head, 8-pound versus 10. And according to the energy formula, 1/2 mass times velocity squared is your kinetic energy. So the term that has the higher impact is velocity, because it's squared. So a lighter head will get you going faster, and with the longer handle will also help with that as well. So between the two, you have a ability to put more energy, and energy is what it takes to split wood, and therefore you'd want to opt for the lighter head but be able to swing it faster. So that's the difference between these two, and that will whether that plays out in reality or not depends on how. Obviously, if you can swing a 10-pound as fast as you can the 8-pound, that will be even better. Okay, Simon, so we need your professional opinion. we went through and took the time to fix this. Was it worth it? Thankfully, it seems like it's holding up. You were able to swing it a few times. Do you think we should have just pitched it, or should we have taken the time to fix it? We'll see how long it lasts, right? So maybe it'll come off here in the next swing, or maybe it'll last the next 50 years. We don't know. But we put about $8 into it, and we have a somewhat, at least for now, functioning sledgehammer. That's a 10-pounder, a little bit shorter handle, not really what we wanted, but that's what we ended up with. So we'll keep putting them both to use and see how this sleeve holds up that we put on there up against the wedges. So be on the lookout for flying heads, but looks like for now it's going to work for us.